Welcome, good afternoon everyone, and thank you for joining us today to discuss the practicalities of ESEF, the taxonomy, xHTML, iXBRL, and the art of tagging. So glad that so many of you guys could join us today. We have a great session lined up for you today, full of useful information and an online demo of our solution. Before I start the introduction, I just wanted to let you know that you can ask questions throughout the webinar using the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen, and we'll do our best to make sure we answer every question as best as we can. Great, so let's begin. My name is Mirko. I am the Chief Technology Officer at Black Sun. I've been at Black Sun for over 20 years, and during my time, I've been responsible for technical definition, development, and delivery of all our digital technology solutions. I'm from a programming and web development background, so I understand XML data structures, the need to tag data accurately, and how to create and publish standards compliant documents. As you can see with me, I'm joined today by Mary, Neil, and Jenny, who will now introduce themselves.
Hi guys, as Mirko says, thanks everyone for joining us. I think there's quite a few clients and also quite a few that we haven't met before, but as Mirko said, it should be a good session. So I am client partner at Black Sun, which essentially means that I support our clients through just about the full suite of corporate communications channels that we work with them on, and yeah, really oversee the account teams to make sure that from a creative consultancy approach we continue to deliver. So as I said, there's quite a few of our clients online, which pleased to see you all, and yeah, should be a good session.
Hi, so I'm Jenny, and I work for Arkk Solutions. I'm the CFO for Arkk Solutions. Thank you for all joining, and it's great partnering with Black Sun on this event. So my background, I started with KPMG. I spent 8 years with KPMG, mostly in their audit function, and I completed audits in the UK and in Australia, and have completed a handful of listed audits whilst I was there as well. So I very much understand the audit process that businesses go through, and their year-end process. I then moved to an AIM-listed business where I progressed to be CFO there. I spent 5 years with that business. Again, so going through a sort of listed year-end, so I understand the timescales and the difficulties around that. I then did a bit of freelance CFO work for a few years, which I was helping Arkk out at the time, and I joined Arkk full-time about a year ago as their CFO.
Great, hi everyone. I'm Mary. I'm the iXBRL team manager at Arkk. I started my career in fund administration, and just shy of 4 years I joined Arkk in Belfast. I head up the iXBRL team and the product. And in my 4 years with Arkk, we've tagged over 20,000 sets of accounts for HMRC and revenue submissions. We look after all changes in taxonomy regulations, and again, product and regulatory requirements over those 4 years.
Great. So the first few slides, we're just going to do a very quick run through about Black Sun. And then after that, I'm going to hand over to Jenny, who's going to take you through a little bit about Arkk, and then also about the tagging process. And then actually you're coming back to me. We're going to talk about the way that we handle things at Black Sun, and we've got a very rigorous but hopefully pretty stress-free process that we're going to apply to how we go through tagging for the set of accounts to come. And then finally, you're also going to get a demo from Mary about how the software works, so we can show you that it all exists and it works according to plan. So yeah, first of all, so Black Sun, I think probably most people know who we are, but for those that don't, we're a stakeholder communications agency. And whilst very much a big focus for the business has been in reporting, and we're very proud to work with a number of FTSE 100s in that reporting, we also do have a far broader kind of remit, which does extend across corporate websites, all forms of sort of ESG communications, and really just about every corporate stakeholder. We support our clients from consultancy through to copywriting, creative campaigns, and then ultimately the sort of technology to deliver them, which is what Mirko looks after. So as I mentioned about our clients, we work with a very broad range of clients, big and small. Here is a selection of them, and many of them you'll see are FTSE 100s. And I think when it comes to this tagging process that's to come, there's been a lot of stress, I think, probably over the last couple of years before it became too clear quite what we were going to need to do. But you know, it's our role to support our clients through that. And as I'll touch upon a little bit later, I mean, we very much see this as just being a part of the process rather than something that needs to hijack the process. And I'll touch upon that a little bit later. But over to you, Merck, to talk about some of our tech.
Yeah, I mean, as Neil hinted, all of our solutions at Black Sun are fundamentally built upon three pillars: strategic insight, creativity and content, and most importantly, particularly in this case, driven by technology. With a multitude of communication channels available today, being empowered to manage your communication quickly and efficiently with consistent messages across channels has never been more important. And our Connect publishing platform does just that. So far, we have empowered over 50 clients to manage their communications across print, web, and social media channels, delivering more consistent and effective communications and saving time and money in the process. And we are well invested to continue to evolve doing this for our clients and also to meet the future demands of our clients. And our ESEF solution is no different, as I'm sure you'll see soon with Mary's demo. You know, we've used our technical expertise and knowledge, and using this, we've been able to devise a solution which preserves the design and creative aspect of the annual report, but most importantly, enriches it with structured financial information, enriches the content with structured financial information. And we're already out there. We've already trialed it. We're already using it for some clients. You'll see a great demo for Tesco in a bit. We've also got other clients like you know, the likes of Burberry and Direct Line Group that are also using the solution. So 3 tried and tested FTSE 100 clients.
Okay, so I'll just fill you in a little bit on Arkk and what we do. You know, tagging does require some specialist knowledge and experience. It's all very well, I think, just having the knowledge of the financial statements and the financial knowledge, which obviously I've had for years. But when I came to Arkk and I spent some time with the team in Belfast, there is a real level of having to understand the taxonomies, how to apply those taxonomies, and what tags are in those taxonomies. And we've spent a good few months now working with a number of listed businesses, looking at what the best tags are to apply and when, and we've built up some real specialist knowledge around those areas. So our objective is to make the whole process as seamless and manage the end-to-end solution with Black Sun. So obviously there will be some input from the clients, but we aim to take the pain away along with Black Sun and just integrate it into that year-end process. You know, we are a specialist iXBRL tagging provider. We have been doing iXBRL tagging for a number of years now, and we do iXBRL tagging for HMRC. We have some large brand name clients, including American Express and Deloitte, for which we do the iXBRL tagging for the HMRC filings currently. So moving into the ESEF tagging market for us is a very natural move, something that we already do. So we were founded back in 2009. As Mary said, you know, we do thousands of we've done thousands of documents for the iXBRL tagging for HMRC. Currently, we partner with about 30% of the FTSE 350, and we have a number of sort of top-end accounting firms that we partner with and work with at the moment. We're ISO 27001 certified, and we're members of xBRL UK, which is a great source of finding out you know, where the market is, what changes are coming, and understanding the market. I think it's just worth pointing out as well that we are fully UK based. There are some providers out there that outsource some of their services outside of the EU and the UK. So we are fully UK based. We have an experienced team under Mary that have carried out all of this iXBRL tagging. And as I've said, you know, we're looking to provide an end-to-end service and take the pain away for you. So a little bit more about what ESEF is. ESEF stands for the European Single Electronic Format, and it was rolled out by ESMA, which stands for the European Securities and Markets Authority, and it sort of came to light back in around 2014. And the whole idea of the ESEF tagging is to improve the sort of access, analysis and comparability of listed businesses' financial statements, so that analysts can, you know, download them, plug the numbers into relevant software, and do some sort of decent analysis in different industries. Who it affects? It affects any main market listed firms who they will be required to produce their annual financial report in xHTML. And then they will have the iXBRL tags will be embedded in that xHTML document. In the first year, only the primary statements will be tagged. But then from 2022, there will be block tagging of the notes will become mandatory. We expect firms to still continue publishing their glossy PDF annual reports. ESEF is going to be an additional bit of documentation, I suppose, that has to be uploaded onto your website alongside those glossy PDFs. We have technology now that means that the PDFs are, or the xHTML document is very similar to the PDF when you open it and look at it on a web browser. However, it won't print very well, so that's why you'll still require a PDF. So just to run through the regulatory requirements again. So who is this applicable to? It's applicable to all main market listed businesses across the EEA. When does it apply? So for all accounting periods starting on or after the 1st of January 2020. So the 31st of December 2020 year ends are going to be the first businesses that fall into scope. So what does it look like? So the full annual report must be in the xHTML format, and consolidated IFRS primary statements will need to be tagged in iXBRL. And I think it's worth just bringing up at this point that the tagging only applies to those filers who are filing under IFRS. So there are some funds who still file under UK GAAP, and they are required to submit a document in xHTML, but they are not required to do the iXBRL tagging. So where does it need to be? So it needs to be publicly available, and it will need to be filed with a national storage mechanism, which I will come on to in a little bit. And Brexit, this is a question that comes up a bit. People say, you know, is it now Brexit's happened, is this going to continue? Yes, because we were in the EU on the 1st of January 2020, ESEF regulation is now, there is no going back. We are currently this is going to happen. So definitely for the next few years, we are going to be required to do this tagging. So a little bit more about what iXBRL is. XBRL stands for Extensible Business Reporting Language, and it's basically a way of barcoding numerical data. So a bit like a barcode on some food when you go to a supermarket. And the I stands for inline, which means that it lives inside that xHTML document, so it's embedded, and it can be loaded in a browser. And then just a little bit more about what the tagging's about, and Mary will go into this in much more detail in a minute. But the tagging is basically split into two sort of areas. So there are IFRS concepts, which are tags which sit under the IFRS taxonomy, revenue, for example, being one of them. And we will use the software to tag that and say, okay, this is in GBP or euros or whatever your base currency is. It's for the period from the 1st of January 19 to the 31st of December 19, or whatever that period is. It's in millions, billions, thousands, and it's a debit or it's a credit. Then there will be some items on your primary statements that don't exactly fit an IFRS concept. And in that case, this is where it becomes a little bit more complicated. So we have to do what's called extended and anchoring. So what we will do is create an extension, and that would be, in the example I've got here, revenue from phone sales. And then we would anchor that to the closest IFRS concept. And that IFRS concept would obviously be revenue. And that's where there's a little bit more probably sort of judgment calls over what that would look like. And that's where we found that our expertise are very helpful. So another question that I get quite a bit is around the ESEF document and audit. It's fair to say this is still a little bit up in the air. There is still no major guidance on this, but I think initially we were thinking it was going to be a light touch in year one. I think there is a chance that there may be no audit requirement in year one now. That's some of the rumours I've heard, but we're still waiting for guidance on that. I think even if we're not required to have it audited in year one, the feeling from the Big Four is that that really we should try and do some sort of assurance on them, so that when we come round to maybe an audit in year 2 or 3, that the auditors have some sort of formal agreement that they're happy with the tagging process and the tags that have been applied. So it's important that we have a think about that and what we might do if an audit isn't required versus is required. If an audit is required, there's 2 scenarios that we've sort of been talking to the audit firms about. It's either having the ESEF document ready at the point of announcement, or it's doing the tagging and having that document ready a week or so after the announcement. And again, until we really have a little bit more guidance from the FRC, we're not going to know quite what those 2 scenarios are, but we are prepared for both, and the audit profession, I believe, are prepared for both from the conversations that I've had. So a little bit of colour around what the ESEF tagging looks like versus the HMRC tagging that we currently do. This is a question that comes up a little bit. So which companies are required to tag? So for ESEF, it's the main market listed companies. For HMRC, it's all businesses submitting a tax return in the UK or Ireland. And the actual tags that are applied are quite different. The concept's quite different. So The concept that I talked about, extending and anchoring, that concept doesn't really exist for HMRC. If there's not a tag in the taxonomy that suits a particular number, then it's just left untagged. For ESEF, in the primary statements, we must tag every number. So we obviously have to do this extending and anchoring process. Turnaround time. For ESEF, the turnaround time is much quicker, 24-hour standard turnaround time, or a 4 or 6 hour option if required, if it's a very tight reporting deadline. And for HMRC, you know, our standard turnaround time is 15 business days with quicker turnarounds if required. The number of reviews. You know, ESEF is a publicly available document. We appreciate that as a business. So the scrutiny and review process within Arkk is significant. We guarantee all the tagging. For HMRC tagging, it goes through one internal review process, a review by the client, and that's about it. So it's a much lighter touch. The time for review, so ESEF, we do what we call a sort of pre-tagging analysis of the prior year financial statements. We then have a month of sort of back and forth with the client if they want to ask questions or the auditors want to ask questions. For HMRC, that's only a couple of weeks, so it's a much quicker and tighter turnaround. And finally, the format. ESEF is an xHTML report that has to sort of mirror the human eye, the PDF. So all of the formatting needs to be the same. And to all intents and purposes, if you're looking at it on a screen, it should look the same as your glossy PDF. For HMRC, there's no requirement for any sort of graphics. It just requires the tagging to be submitted through the portal to HMRC. So that's a much easier process for us. So just some of the latest updates. These are some of the things that I see that I get asked quite a bit or get discussed at the iXBRL UK forums. So the national storage mechanism, it's looking like that is likely to be Companies House. Quite how that's going to work is still up in the air a little bit. It is likely that there will be some UK-based taxonomy that will overlay the ESEF taxonomy to allow Companies House to effectively store the documents. At the moment, we don't tag things like company numbers, we don't tag balance sheet dates. That's not part of the ESEF tagging. Whereas if you think about how Companies House works, that's their way of working out what documents they've got, and filing documents is based on company numbers and balance sheet dates and some other bits of information that currently aren't tagged. So it is likely that the UK will require some sort of overlay of that sort of information, but we are still waiting on further updates on that. COVID-19, I thought it's just worth touching on possible delays. So there was talk sort of March and possibly early April of whether this was likely to be delayed by a year. I've chatted to a number of people in the market, and whilst I think people recognise it's going to be difficult due to some of the issues that have come out over the last month or so, I think it's unlikely that it will be delayed because they will have to agree that with every European country, and that is going to be difficult. So our feeling is that they will still probably require ESEF tagging. They will probably be a little bit lenient if it's not done on time, and our feeling is possibly the audit requirements or maybe relaxed to allow companies to sort of meet the requirements in year one. But we haven't actually heard anything concrete on the delays. As I say, it's just a few rumours of people thinking that could be the case. And then assurance reports from auditors. I've already chatted about that a little bit, but I think it's worth having a chat to your auditors about what their opinions are around assurance reports. I've definitely spoken to 2 of the Big 4 and their lead partners who are looking after ESEF, and 2 of them are very much of the opinion that if an audit is not required in year 1, that an assurance report should be sought from the auditors in year 1 to make sure that there is agreement between the company and the auditors.
Great. Thank you very much, Jenny. I should say, actually, I can see there's a few questions coming through, which is brilliant and very pleasing. What we're going to do is we've got a bit of a Q&A at the end, so please do keep posting your questions at the bottom of the screen, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can, I think, at the end, time permitting, and then we'll make sure we respond as well specifically to everyone on there. So please do keep them coming in. So after Jenny's obviously explained kind of what it all means, which is amazing because it's been a couple of years in the offing, yet it hasn't always been as clear. So really appreciate that, Jenny. We are now just going to run through what is our solution to effectively embedding this in your reporting process, rather than, as I said at the beginning, kind of hijacking it for a new output. So what we've done is we've really looked and actually applied the very similar kind of approach that we do anyway with our clients, which effectively means trying to get as much of the thinking done up front wherever we can. So we have a process which will mean that actually it doesn't interfere with that quite challenging year end. We all know, I'm sure everyone here has probably worked within the sort of reporting process, or if not, you've seen your colleagues scrambling around for a few weeks of the year, and it gets a bit stressful. So what we've got here is a process which really will eliminate a lot of the stress involved in this. We can't take the stress away from year-end reporting, but we can mitigate this one. So the way we see it, we've got a 5-stage process here, and the way we see it is that actually with the taxonomy, which we do think is probably the first, the first stage rather than being the last stage, getting that taxonomy right does not need to be on your final year-end accounts. What it can be is get as close as possible to right on your previous year-end accounts, or a pro forma depending on where you're at. I mean, there's not many businesses that have a huge amount of certainty over the year-end numbers in September, so it will largely be on a final set of your previous year's accounts. And so what we'll do at that stage, and we're literally thinking between sort of April and September, really at the very, very early stages of when you would normally kick off your annual report, is that we will get the taxonomy all set up and actually run through a pretty full tagging process on that previous set of accounts. So the benefit of this is it means that we can try and get any of the questions out of the way that involve the taxonomy. Of course, there may be some newer IFRS measures that are either coming in or we don't quite know the full impact of, but by and large, we think that we can get pretty much all of the taxonomy done around the IFRS measures, and also some of those anchoring and extension points, or as many as possible, pretty much approved in September. And what we see is that actually going into stage 2, what we think is that we should be able to get that early approval. I know we've had some discussions about whether audit will have to review this first year. Very much, as Jenny said, our feeling is that we should have their involvement, because it will obviously avoid any stresses for the following years. But we see getting that early taxonomy approved by auditors if we can, and then also by sort of the senior internal stakeholders that approve the financial statements. And so that process will, by and large, be run between Black Sun and the team at Arkk, and we will get it into a place where essentially we're happy that it could go through to your senior leaders for approval at that stage. But this is really why we're going to do that at an early point, because there may be some back and forth between ourselves to make sure we're all happy. But if we can get that right, then we can essentially park it for a couple of months while we then go through the year-end reporting process. So as I say, that kind of takes us up to December with an approved taxonomy. Into January and February, obviously exceptionally busy months, finalising all the numbers, finalising all the strategic reports, corporate governance as well. And so, as I say, from that point, we feel that actually the focus will be on the report rather than the xHTML output and the iXBRL tagging. And so as we go through that, it will be very much part of the normal reporting process. And then we'll be looking at, we've got these dates here of January, February. January might be optimistic for year-end numbers to be finalised, but certainly February. And so when we've got a final approved set of year-end numbers, And this will be different for different businesses as to whether we do this the day before announcement or whether we do it after announcement, which we think certainly in year one will be a more achievable sort of process, that we do it kind of after the after your results announcement, before the annual report is published. As I say, what we'll then do is, with our approved taxonomy, we essentially will just overlay that onto the final set of accounts. So that's why we would get that taxonomy approved early doors, because that means that it can just sit over the final year-end accounts. As Jenny said, 24 hours is a pretty standard turnaround for the Arkk team and for Black Sun to get this right. So there really isn't a long process, and that is all based on that early approval and knowing that we've got we're 90% there at the very least. Obviously, again, at this stage, we will run it past all of that senior leadership team again, and I think auditors again, depending on where that nets out. And if there are any further extensions that need to be added, then again we will do that then. So from there, we see that as being part of the approval process, and so there will be some discussions about whether this goes to the board alongside the annual report, or whether it is a subsequent meeting. I think probably most COSECs are going to prefer that this goes as part of the annual report approval rather than being a sort of additional meeting. But that is doable given the quick turnaround that the teams can generate. So essentially, as we have that approval, what we're then looking at is into stage 4 and 5, which will be both posting on the website and then the filing. So as part of the demo, we'll show you what that output looks like, which I think you'll all be very impressed with. It looks exactly like a finished, designed, creative annual report, but with those additional tags on it. And so that will sit alongside the PDF on the website, which will go live according to your normal schedule. I mean, I know a number of companies do try and publish results and annual report at the same time, and congratulations to those that manage it. It's a big challenge, but that is still going to be possible within this. Or what most clients and most companies do is, obviously there's a week or so lag between the sign off of the annual report and then its publication while it's printed and so on. So there will be ample time to get that then online. And then finally will be the submission to, at the moment, whoever wants it. I think it's as we're referring to national storage mechanism. As we said, I think it's probably likely that it's going to be Companies House, but that will be the final submission, and obviously, yeah, we'll probably go alongside that Companies House doc. So that's where we'll get to. I think hopefully what you'll see from this is that it doesn't need to be scary, and it doesn't need to be a particularly huge stress to get this through. And again, it's all based on that principle of getting the hard work done early, focusing at the right time, and then some exceptionally quick turnarounds from the Black Sun and the Arkk team to finish this off. So that's the process. So you've got the Q&A. Please do post any questions, and we will respond to them.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Neil. That was great. Just before we now kind of move on to the demo, we did actually have a little poll that we wanted to run. So I'm just going to launch the poll now, just whilst Mary's getting ready with the demo. And it would be great if you could please just answer. It's just a short poll, 4 questions, and it would really help us to know the answers to these questions during the Q&A session. So I'm just launching now. Cool. Looks like it's settled around 65% of people voted. So I'll end the poll now. Thank you all who participated. That's great. And I'll share the results now. Jenny, I wondered if you could take us through it.
Yes. What do you know about ESEF? So it's looking like most people know a little bit about ESEF, a few at 10% with not really knowing anything at all, and then about 13% saying that they know quite a lot, which is good. So how prepared do you feel for ESEF? Most are sitting in the middle again at partially prepared, 53%, with 43% not at all prepared and 3% very prepared. So looking like not many people are ready to go on this. So there's obviously still a little bit that we can do to help people, so that's good. So do you intend to perform this function in-house or outsource? So in-house, only 7% of people are saying that they're intending to do that. 50% are undecided, which I'd say is probably in line with the above, people still looking into the options, and 43% outsourced, which is broadly in line with sort of what we're seeing from inquiries across the board, actually. And have you spoken to your auditor about ESEF? So 22% yes, probably a little lower than I'd expected, actually. 17% no, and 62% not yet. So yeah, I think there's still a little bit to go on some of the ESEF work.
That's great. Thanks, Jenny. So I'll stop sharing the poll now, and I will stop sharing the presentation as well, so that Mary can take over with the demo.
Thank you. So I'm just going to share my screen now. I hope everyone can see. So now I'm going to take you through a quick demo, first of all, to show you our internal process. Although you won't take part in that, a lot of our clients have showed interest in how we actually go about tagging your document. And then, which I'm sure you've all been looking forward to, is your final document and what you will actually publish. So, to kick us off, this is the Amana adapter that we use to tag the ESEF documents. And we've worked closely with Amana over the last few months to enhance this adapter to ensure that the best possible output we have at the end. So this is Tesco's document, and you can see it's broke down per page. And we go through each page to identify what tables that we need to tag. Once identified, you can see that we've marked them as tables. And this is a partially tagged document to show you how that we review the document as well. So once highlighted as tables, we go to table tagging, which makes it an awful lot easier to view in order to apply the tags. So everything highlighted here has been tagged. Those figures unhighlighted are still to be tagged. Those with the little green plus are extension tags. So you can see, just based on this one table, quite a lot of tags are actually extended. And we found that throughout most of the files that we've tagged. So what I'm going to do is to apply a tag. So this one here is our revenue from prior year. So this here is our ESEF taxonomy, and I've already filtered for revenue. And it's a matter of dragging and dropping it. So it is quite easy to use. However, it's quite easy to use because we have spent months researching the taxonomy. So we know exactly where to look, what's available in the taxonomy, and how it's broken down. If I was to expand all, you can see there's thousands of items in the taxonomy. So if you're picking up this to fully tag at your year end, it's really going to be a huge amount of work on top of actually publishing your accounts. So we do that for each figure in the financial statements. Unlike HMRC, it is mandatory to tag all items. So this is why we have extensions. Part of our review process then, our senior member of the team will go into the tag set of accounts like this and click on each one. So this one here, this is revenue for current year. You can see who's applied it, that it's been tagged as revenue. It's in GBP. It's been scaled to 1 million. And they're the date that it has been applied for. And then if we look at an extension tag, you can see in here. So this has been tagged as revenue before exceptional items and amortization of acquired intangibles, and it has been tagged to revenue. And we can also set it as a wide anchor or a narrow anchor. It will default to a narrow anchor, but you can set multiple anchors. So if it was linked to 2 items or 3 items within the IFRS taxonomy, you can drag and drop them in there. And again, you can go in here and see that has been tagged to revenue. Again, it's GBP and it's been scaled to 1 million. And that's basically it. That's the tagging process internally. Very quick overview. But now I'm going to move on to review documents. So this is the file or the folder that you'll receive from us. You'll have your Excel report and this zip folder, which I've already extracted. The Excel report you'll use as part of your review process, but I'll come back to that in a few moments. And this is the main document that you'll be looking at. This folder called tesco.com and this one. These are your two documents that you'll use for submission. One is your iXBRL and the tesco.com. That is your extension taxonomy. That includes all tags that we've extended. And both of those will have to be used for submission. You have your xHTML. This document, a lot of our clients have expressed that they will publish that on their website. It can be downloaded and then analysed to see what tags have been applied. And then we have our preview document. So I've actually already loaded this because it does take a few minutes for this to load. So you can see here that the format, it looks the same as your published PDF. But you'll have this on the right-hand side. So I'm going to turn on highlight, and that'll highlight everything that we've tagged and use the arrows to go through the tags. So the first item we've tagged is Tesco PLC, and that's a mandatory tag. You can see the concept over here. It's from the IFRS taxonomy, and it is the name of reporting entity or other means of identification. The date that this applies, so that is your current year. Your fact value, that has been the item that's been tagged, and that none of that's applicable because it's not a figure. Down then one. And this is our group income statement. Same as what I just showed you on the Amana adapter. Everything in yellow, extended, everything in green is from the IFRS taxonomy. So you can see revenue, that's from the IFRS taxonomy. It's revenue, that gives you a brief description of what the revenue actually means. Date is for a current year. And if I was to click on revenue for the prior year, you would see the dates change. The fact value, accuracy, so it's in millions. If it can, it will show you the change from last year and your LEI, that's your identifier. And then if we look at an extension, so again, this is the same extension as what I showed you on the Amana adapter. So it's revenue before exceptional items and amortization of acquired intangibles. This has only been anchored to revenue. And again, your dimensions, that's your current year, your fact value, and your millions. So this is the final step we would do in our review process before we send it back to clients. Once we've fully reviewed it on the Amana adapter, we will then validate it to ensure that it is in the format applicable for submission. And as mentioned already, Companies House, if it is Companies House that we submit these to, that may change what the requirements are. So whether or not we have to tag a company house number, we have to tag a balance sheet date, etc. That may change the validation for each company. However, right now we are validating based on the ESEF requirements. Once we validate, we generate these, and then a final review is done on this document and our Excel, which I'll move on to in a moment, just to confirm that everything has been tagged and that everything is linked back correctly. And we would recommend that our clients use this one as their main piece for review. We think it's easy to use. It looks like your account, so you're quite familiar with it already. And it gives you a very clear indication as to what's been tagged. So now I'm going to move on to the final piece that you'll use to review, and that is your Excel report. Here we go. And this is broke down into tabs for each of the financial statements. As you can see, not as user-friendly as the HTML document, but it is very useful. So you can see your scaling has been set to 6. So everything has been tagged in millions, and you scroll down, you can confirm that there's nothing changed, except for these. And you can see the items there in pence. And it is your basic earnings loss per share, and they were meant to be in pence, so you would expect them to be at -2. You can also see very clearly that your currency is in GBP. So that is the final check that we do before we send back to client. And we recommend our clients do the same on their side. So use this report here for your main review, go through each tag, confirm you're happy with what's been tagged and how we've anchored it and how we've labeled it, and then use the Excel report for your final review. And once happy, then your 2 reports for submission are your extension taxonomy and your iXBRL. So I'm going to hand back to you, Marco. Stop sharing.
That's great. Thank you, Mary. I'll just share my screen again. Cool. So that was the demo. As you can see, we demoed Tesco, but we're also working with Burberry and Direct Line Group. Yeah, so great demo, Mary. A true tagging expert, I think you are, and I think you need to be as well. Any questions on the tagging, please feel free to use the tool and we'll get through them in a second. But we believe our solution that we've just demoed meets all your requirements, and most importantly is delivered seamlessly alongside your annual report process. And I think we have got it down to just 3 interventions: early pre-tagging of previous years, final tagging as soon as the results have been finalized or announced, and then finally the publishing, filing and uploading to your corporate website. And the most exciting thing is that given that your final document is effectively a web page, it's easily published to your corporate website. You don't need your agency to do anything. In fact, our recommendation, as my colleagues have said today, is clearly to publish the PDF for downloading and printing, the xHTML document for submission, but also for analysts to download, analyze, and machine read. And then why not also put the preview document up? You know, for any users who wish to, use the inline viewer to actually browse and gain more information from the enhanced content. And finally, before we move on to the Q&A, I just wanted to conclude by saying that we have adopted a practical and future-proof approach to the ESEF requirement. And our aim is to provide a full service offering integrated through project support that will give you the confidence, save you time, minimize cost, and ensure greater accuracy. So, on to the questions and answers then, and we've got quite a few of those. So Neil and Jenny, I don't know if you want to pick a few questions and go through them.
I mean, we can do. Why don't we? We've got about 10 minutes. So why don't we try and work through the top from the top? There will be a couple that I'm not sure we can answer immediately, but we will try and get back to people. So why don't we go from this top? So we've got one from Estelle, who says, do we know whether it will become mandatory in Switzerland, or is it just the current, or sort of current, European Union countries? Personally, I haven't got that answer immediately to hand. I'm not sure if Mary or Jenny have. If not, we can do a quick bit of research and I'm sure we can get back to you.
Yeah, I think that's something we'll have to look into.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but I'm on obviously selling their software across the whole of Europe, so we'll have a chat with them and look further into it.
Perfect. So going on to the next one from Pelissa. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Will the PDF and recording of the webinar be provided? Absolutely. We'll get it out to everyone afterwards. Yeah. At the very least, we'll get the deck, and I think Mirko's been doing some recording, so I'm sure. I have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Moving on from Karen, is there any indication of when further guidance will be available from the FRC re-audit and timescale of availability of tagged documents? We've had a few sort of meetings with the FRC recently, and I haven't had full sort of commitment as to quite what's going on there, and I'm not sure unless Jenny's had any further insight.
No, I mean, I think it's fair to say we were expecting something late March, April. I'm guessing they've had some more pressing things in mind over the last month or so. So I think imminent. They are getting pressure from both businesses and auditors alike. I know PwC and Deloitte have been putting significant pressure on them to try and finalise this. Businesses just really not knowing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing I would add to it is that what we see for the time being is that there can be absolutely no harm in bringing the auditors into this process. I think it's an important thing that we at least get used to it. It's actually why Black Sun, we've been doing a few kind of trial runs on a pilot program with a number of our clients is really for that reason, is to have everything tried and tested before we do the real thing for next year. So I think on that sense, we should factor in that, yes, we will need audit. And again, I think on timescales, the way we see it at the moment is largely that the filing is that sort of core requirement. So I think that might answer a couple of questions that are later down as well, is that not necessarily simultaneously with the annual report PDF live, although given the timescales we can work to, I think it should all be possible anyway. Moving down. So one from Anthony Campbell. The requirement from tagging appears to be linked to the financial statements in the integrated report only. Can you provide some clarity on whether there is a requirement to tag preliminary results? Yeah, so at the moment, as far as I'm concerned, no, it's not a requirement to tag prelims. It's just a requirement to tag the reports. Have you got anything to add on that, Jenny or Mary?
No, exactly right. We have had requests from some businesses to tag prelims. So some businesses are looking to tag prelims, but we don't foresee that being a requirement for the next 2 or 3 years anyway.
And I guess actually, interestingly on that is, again, which does come back down to those timescales, and for those businesses that that do publish the report on the same day as the results. I think I saw one from Brian Smith at Stand Life Aberdeen down there. You know, it is doable, and ultimately with the primary statements being, you know, the same between those two documents, there's no harm in us, you know, in being able to get that done. So that shouldn't be a challenge. Possibly another question we may not be able to answer. How will the filing of ESEF updates work for overseas registered UK listed companies who are not required to file documents with Companies House? Do you think the filing directly with the FCA National Storage would be considered? I don't have an answer to that one, but not sure.
Well, I think the conversations that I've had so far is actually the National Storage Mechanism will be Companies House, but the filing will not happen in the same way that companies currently file their accounts, the ESEF documents. So even though Companies House will, as I say, ask for some data to be tagged, if it can be, I think there will be more clarity over it, but yes, it still will require filing at Companies House, just in a different way.
Brilliant. So I've got one here from Silvana. Do you have any March year ends? Currently, enjoying the annual report process under COVID circumstances, which we know there's been some challenges around. Working and preparing for ESEF compliance. We do. And we're running those test runs, and I would say that actually for all clients and not current clients alike, it is something that we can do, and I think that whether we do it as part in exactly the process that we've discussed today, or whether we just move straight to the final version, given the fact that you don't need to publish, and ensure that we have the taxonomy ready for the year ahead, we think it's definitely something that can be worked out. I know that the audit process has been difficult with obviously COVID-19, but this process all digital, so there should be absolutely no problem. So it's certainly something we could work with you guys to get the taxonomy right at the very least for the following years. Moving on, I think 5 minutes left. So how will the process work if your year-end results announcement is audited? I think we've hopefully covered that one. A similar question with Brian Smith, I think, there, and that due to those turnarounds, it can still happen in the same way. I think we'll all be quite optimistic that the primary statements this year don't move right up until the point of sign off. So so there will be a few hours leeway, and as both Jenny and Mary mentioned, there's a 4 to 6 hour option if we really are that hard pushed. So it can definitely work in the same in the same way. And again, all the more important to get that tagging right from the outset. So I think, given that we have got a few people dropping off now, and we're probably just about coming to the end of it, I think what we should do is maybe we'll round off on a few of the questions afterwards, and we can ping back some people individually on those final questions. I think probably from Black Sun side and Merck's, we've got a couple of slides that we can just round off as I'm sure people drop out. just really want to outline some of the things that we've got coming up. So we know that communicating is challenging at this time, but actually more important than ever. So we're doing our best to try and share as much experience as we can with our clients going forward. So we've got a few more upcoming webinars, virtual AGMs, who I'm sure the IR and COSEC teams will find interesting. So that one's on the 6th of May. The Power of Print Connect, which Mirko touched upon, and that really is quite a full technology suite and solution for both reporting and actually all comms channels. Links very close to the corporate website. We've got one on the 20th of May at 4, and then why ESG is even more important. I think we can certainly see that actually there's going to be a bigger focus on companies to both act and disclose more around some of the non-financials. And so we've got an event on the 27th of May about that. And then also, which is something we run every year, is our Complete 100, which we're aiming sort of for the beginning of July for that to be published. We do a full audit of the FTSE 100 and their communications across a huge number of touch points. So I'm sure a lot of you have probably seen our research before. But that should be exciting, running exactly as normal, despite the challenges. And so we'll be really pleased to share that with everyone going forward. And then I guess lucky last from me is just to say, do get in touch. We're here to help. We know that things are challenging at the moment, but you've got a full team here at Black Sun, and probably the same for Arkk. I'm sure we can circulate some details afterwards of all the people on the call, so we can we're here to support you guys. So do give us a shout.
Thanks, Neil. Thank you all for attending. We hope to be in touch with you soon. Thank you.